right, awesome. So I want to first thank everybody for letting me be here today. I do work for Northwest CASA, or Northwest Center Against Sexual Assault. So we primarily focus on helping students make sure that they are in healthy relationships. We'll talk a little bit today about dating violence as well. If at any time conversations that I bring up do make you feel uncomfortable and you feel like you need to leave the room, it's definitely okay if you need to do that. We'll be together for quite some time until the end of your scheduled class. If you have questions at any time, definitely ask me. But also, if you don't want to ask a question in front of everybody, then just come up to me at the end of the presentation before you leave. I can give you information and answer that question. So today's focus is about healthy dating relationships. What does that look like? To help evaluate too if you are in a dating relationship, to make sure people are being kind and respectful to us, because you deserve those things. We kind of did the welcome and introductions. Jess also covered some of that. So we're going to talk about healthy dating relationships, breakups, because those totally suck, but they do happen. Some of us might have been the person who's broken up with somebody, and some of us have been broken up with. So we're going to kind of talk through that a little bit. And then I am going to talk about dating violence and the different types of dating violence. There's also going to be a video that we're able to watch, and we'll kind of hear this individual's story. Her name is Nikki, and we'll kind of process that a little bit, because some of these things many of you may know based upon domestic violence and information you may have learned in school. But dating violence is the same stuff, and it happens to teens, and people don't always want to talk about it. So hopefully I can give you information that you haven't heard yet, or just expand your knowledge. And then also we're going to talk about ways that you can get support if you or a friend or a family member is in a dating violence situation or a domestic violence situation, because there's lots of agencies and support out there. So let's first start with, why should I go on a date anyways? So being the juniors and seniors that you are, I would probably assume that some of you have been in relationships before. Can I just kind of read the room? Would you put your hand up a little bit if you have been in a dating relationship at some point in your life? Thanks, honest friends. Awesome. Okay, and then would anybody like to be so brave to say if you're in a relationship right now? Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And dating, honestly, could be dating I talk to this person only online. Dating could be we only see each other at school. But because many of you may be able to go out more often, some of you might have a driver's license, stuff like that. Being upperclassmen, it's a lot easier to get around and do dating stuff. Some of you might even have jobs, which also helps if you want to go out on a date, right? So I'm not assuming that everybody wants to or is dating, but at some point, most likely, we're going to get together with somebody. So what do we expect from dating? I want to give you a couple, maybe 30 seconds to talk to somebody near you, because maybe you sat by a friend or something. Come up with things that you look for in a dating relationship, either qualities that you bring to the table, because, right, we're in a relationship, so there's two of us here. So maybe what's something that you bring to the table, or what's something that you want from your dating partner. Okay, and then we'll kind of talk as a group. So turn to somebody, come up with a couple ideas, and then we'll come back together. What do you want from your dating partner? What do you expect from dating? Sounds good. I'm kind of excited because you sound pretty chatty. So hopefully we can continue this throughout the conversation. So who could share with me what you or somebody from the group around you? Get it. Thank you. Honesty and respect. Honesty and respect. Yeah, I want my partner to respect me, my decisions, like me for me kind of thing, but also they need to be honest. We don't have time for people who are lying and cheating. We don't have time for people to just run around and play with our emotions, right? We either are going to be serious or we're not. And some might say, well, you might not live happily ever after with the person you date in high school, but hey, I want this to at least be a positive experience, right? Because not all relationships need to end in turmoil. Sometimes we just which we'll get to. We just break up because we're not working out too well. But at least we could be honest in the time that we were together. Cool. What else did anybody else come up with? So we have honesty, respect. What else are you looking for in a dating partner? Or what do you want from your dating partner? Or what do you bring to the table? Give me one more. No? That's fine. Okay, so apparently she has all the great ideas. Honesty and respect. That's fine. You got them all. That's cool. Does anybody, so the best age to start dating, do you think, well, because obviously juniors and seniors, some of you have already said you're dating, but who thinks that most people, raise your hand, start dating in 5th grade? Okay. How about 6th grade? 7th? Okay, I got a couple. 8th? All right, there's more. We're getting there, right? Freshman. Okay, a little more. So it seemed more it started in 8th grade. Sophomores? No, and then juniors, seniors? We've already been there, done that kind of thing. Okay, so maybe, yeah, like later middle school, right? So 8th grade-ish is where we start to see more of our friends dating, whatever you call it in middle school, right? And then we start to get those relationships going, and then by the time we're in high school, we're like, we got this under control, right? And then many of us, I should say, have been in a dating relationship. And then it comes to like, well, who do I date? What am I looking for in a dating partner? Such as what we came up with, like qualities, right? What are they going to bring to the table? Maybe we've been friends in the past, and now I'm looking at them at more than just a friend kind of thing. Maybe it's somebody we met in a group or some other type of setting, and we just feel like we hit it off, right? There's just something about them. Maybe they tell really funny jokes that you like are kind of like into. Maybe you just have a lot in common, whether it's music interests, sports, stuff like that. So we found some commonalities, and then we start to look at them like, okay, are they being respectful? Are they being honest, right? Are they communicating, or they keep blowing me off, right? What's that kind of vibe that we're getting from them? So when we start to establish a healthy dating relationship, we're looking for some of those small things at first. But everything's new, exciting. When you see like a new person that you're interested in, you also probably think they're attractive, right? So they're probably good looking, right? You're really excited to get to know them. So maybe we go on a date with them. We could ask them out, or they ask us out. Maybe not at that point do we define the relationship. Maybe after a couple dates, we either make it official, right? Or we don't. But throughout that whole process, from starting a relationship through making it official all the way until whatever the end might be, we need to make sure that there's communication along the way and we're both respecting each other's boundaries. So dating tips. So has anybody actually feel like they've actually been on like a real date with somebody? Okay, got some hands. So dating, again, could be whatever you make it to be. There's only so much you could do in high school, I know. But when you go on a date or when you're out on a date with somebody, some people do group dates because maybe your parents aren't going to let you just go boyfriend, girlfriend to the movies, right? Maybe they're like, it's easier to go and hang out with them if I say, I'm hanging out with all of these friends, right? And the other group just happens to show up. So we might go on group dates, or maybe there's more than one couple going, like me and my friend, we're both in a relationship, and so we all go out like a double date. Those are other ways that we can go on a date. But be respectful and don't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. But if you're going to ask somebody on a date, you should probably try to make a plan, a little bit of a plan, a start of something that you guys could do together, or have an idea of what the night's going to look like. But also be home on time. Like if your partner has a curfew or their parents expect them home at a certain time, like don't be messing that up right at the beginning, right? Like you've got to make sure that you as a person in that dating relationship are respecting parents' rules. That's going to go pretty far. If you definitely start to get more serious with your dating partner, you want their parents to like you, right? Good first impressions. Conversations, things to talk about, just ask questions, be interested. Obviously, it helps if we already had things that were in common, or if we've been friends for a minute, then it's going to make more sense because we have jokes that we can share. But just get to know them. But don't talk about past relationships. Nobody wants that drama brought in during some date. It's really nobody else's business what your previous relationships were like. Some are good, some aren't. But it's not really the time to start comparing, am I better than this person's ex-partner? It doesn't really matter. Be clear about your expectations. Like if you're just looking, you're not knowing if you're super serious or not, be upfront with that person so they also know and don't get like super caught up in something that we're not matching on like what we view this relationship to be. Like if you want to move quickly, make sure that that person also feels that they want to move quickly. But places to go, like what do dates look like? So whether if you've been on a date or if you really want somebody to take you on a date, where or what could you be doing that's considered a date? What can y'all come up with that is examples of dates that you could take somebody to? A movie. And what's the other one said? Going out to eat, food. You'd bring me anywhere. I don't care what it is, and I'm down, right? Like food's a good thing, right? Food, I go out to eat, or I'm broke and I like make an oven pizza and then we eat that together. That works too, right? Cool. What else could be a date? Where else could you go? Like, or if you think of like cool things that would be maybe fun if you can't do it in high school, but you do it when you're older. What else could be a cool date? Traveling? Yeah, traveling like, well, let's just like drive to this other place. Like maybe depends on how far we can travel, right? But when you get older, we might like drive to Starved Rock, which is down in a little bit of southern Illinois. It's a couple hours away, but maybe you want to do some hiking, some nature trails, stuff like that. There's whitewater rafting down there, so you can kind of make a day trip maybe. I like that. Or maybe you drove to like somewhere if you're interested in camping. These are more of the outdoorsy examples, right? But traveling can be a date. Or just trying new food places. I would like maybe map out like, oh, I want to go over here, and we take like a drive to somewhere that has like cool food that's not in our area. I spent a lot of time coming up with like weird examples of dates, and it definitely depends. Like, how much money do I have to spend? Like, does the person want to see animals, or do they want to just like go to the mall and people watch and make fun of people? I don't know. There's other things, like I know there's like arcades out here, so if you're into like video games or like old school gaming, like you could go to Brookfield out there. Sports nights, things like that, or sports games, I should say. But it depends. It's about what you make it to be. But movies, dinner, that kind of stuff is pretty simple and normal for high school. But when we're in that healthy dating relationship, so maybe we've went on a couple dates, we made it official, we're actually together, these are those qualities that we're looking for. Is this person communicating? Am I able to talk openly about my problems or my issues with them? And do I feel that they're actually listening? Or are they on their phone the whole time, playing their game the whole time and not caring at all, right? Because if I wanted to talk to nobody, I would just go talk to my dog because that happens to work all the time. But if I'm talking to you, I'm looking for feedback, right? Or maybe I'm just venting and I just want you to listen because you're my person. You're with me and I want your feedback. I want your support. Respectfulness also not only is about boundaries, which we'll talk about today, but people's values and belief systems, right? Sometimes you'll date people within the same type of value system as you, and sometimes you won't. And can we come together? Can we compromise? Or does that person like totally not, do they make me change? Do they start to tell me that what I believe in or what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling isn't valid or is wrong? That's starting to get into that unhealthy situation where I might need to check myself and say, am I really with a healthy, happy person, or is this person disrespecting me? We also want to make sure that we're honest. We brought up honest and equal, because partnerships, we are equal. Somebody's not supposed to be in charge of the other person. Your dating partner is not your parent, right? Your parents want to know where you are. Your parents want you to check in with them. Your dating partner? No way. Y'all are equals, okay? Or should be as equal as possible. Shared ideas, shared thoughts. And granted, we're not going to agree on everything, but it needs to be roughly here. If you start to feel like this person always makes the decisions, and it's not because they asked you and said, hey, what do you want to do? And you're like, I don't know, whatever you want. And now they're making decisions. It's not like that. It's like they're telling you what to do. They're forcing you to do stuff and you never have a decision, or you bring up an idea and they just totally squash it and like don't even care. Then they might not be being as equal as we should be having us treated. And enjoy personal time. This one will come up again, but you both can spend time apart and not have to be all up in each other's business all the time and have our own separate friend groups, separate like hangout stuff that doesn't have to involve our dating partner. But communication is a key part of a relationship. Unless any of you are like magical wizards or mind readers, we don't know what other people are thinking, and you cannot assume that the other person knows what you meant or what you're thinking if you're not saying it. And that's where a lot of arguments come in, because we're like, you should have just known. Well, no, maybe I didn't. And it's not because I'm ignoring you or I don't care. It's just like, I don't know what you're thinking. So say it. If you don't like something or you want to communicate something, you need to bring it to the table, okay? We talked about compromise. Be supportive. Partners should let each other know what they need and when they need support. It could be anything. Your partner's having a tough time with their grades or in school. Your partner's having a tough time with their parents or some other family stuff. Your partner's having a hard time with work or whatever else we struggle with, right? Be supportive. They're there. They want you to listen. They want your, you don't have to have all the right things to say. Maybe your partner struggles with anxiety or depression or has some other mental health stuff. You don't have to fix them, right? You're not going to be the end-all be-all for them. But I could be there and be like, I'm here for you. I care about you. I'm sorry you're going through this. Maybe I get a kind gesture and I know what their favorite candy is. Maybe I make up a cute date, or I just try to spend time with them to make them feel better. And also, we're going to talk about respecting others' privacy when we talk about boundaries, because boundaries is something that I think of as boundaries change, especially as we continue dating somebody. We're going to start to let people in a little bit more. I don't know if you've ever heard of when people start to date, they have a wall up, I guess, and it's like you don't let people inside. You don't let people know a lot about you. Sometimes you're very guarded, which is fine. But sometimes after you start dating somebody for a while, you start to trust them. They've earned your respect, and you might start sharing more information with them about family, past relationships, stuff like that, if you wanted to. But healthy boundaries also means that you're able to communicate your needs without fear of your partner's reaction. If you're afraid to tell your partner no, if you're afraid or worried to let your partner know that you don't want to hang out with them today and you're planning to hang out with other people, and you start to get nervous that they're going to have a bad reaction, or maybe they've had a previously bad reaction, that's where you might need to take a step back and say, okay, maybe something's going on that's a little bit unhealthy. Maybe I need to go back and communicate with them to let them know that, hey, I don't really appreciate it if they're arguing with me or they're kind of making me feel bad or feel guilty about a decision. But you should be able to communicate your needs and your boundaries, your limits, without a fear of what your dating partner will say or do in a negative way. We talked about not needing to be with your partner 24/7. We have friends that are the same sex as our dating partner, and it doesn't mean that we think they're cute. It doesn't mean that we're dating with them or any of that stuff. And sometimes dating partners get really jealous, right? They are super jealous and insecure, and jealousy is an ugly trait. I don't know whoever said that, oh, they're jealous, that means they care. No, jealousy gets a little crazy, right? People that are jealous take it too far. A lot of times. So if your partner's super jealous, we might have to evaluate that. Are you able to put up with that? Or is that something that's making us seem like, I don't think we're going to work through this. They're not trusting me to go and hang out with these other people because they're accusing me or maybe assuming that I'm doing something that's cheating on them or something. When it comes to privacy, that also includes passwords and social media accounts. You don't have to give your partner your passwords and all that other stuff. And if your partner, back to the jealousy thing, if your partner starts asking you, well, why are you liking their photo? Why did you comment on this person's whatever? Why are you doing this? And you're like, because that's how Instagram works. And you feel like they're acting like a crazy person and accusing you of cheating or liking somebody else or doing something sneaky behind their back just because you're interacting on social media like we all do. That might also be what I consider a warning sign of an unhealthy relationship. Because no, you don't need to check my phone when I'm in the bathroom. You don't need to know my password. We don't have to have the same passwords because you should trust me. And we're not cheating on each other because that's just kind of bogus anyways, right? We're not going to be in a relationship if we're going to cheat on somebody. So we need that trust. And you need to respect whoever I'm talking with or to, and it doesn't mean I like them. Individual needs and likes. You are your own person, even though we come together in this dating relationship. So if your partner starts to try to tell you how to dress, or tell you how you should do your hair or your makeup, or not do your makeup, and they start to kind of change you into a different style or a different person than you really feel that you are, you start to lose your identity. You start to lose what parts of you make you you. And that might be a part of an unhealthy relationship as well. So with boundaries also comes consent. So have you heard of the word consent before? Okay. Could anybody tell me what consent means? What is consent? Or what does it sound like? Yeah. Kind of like permission. It is totally like permission, right? Other words or ways that you can talk about consent? So is it, yeah. Agreement, perfect. But is it permission because I've asked you for like the last 20 minutes to do something and then you finally said yes? Is that consent? No. Consent is a freely given yes, an enthusiastic yes. So the other way to describe that is like if you ask somebody to do something and they're like, well, I don't know, sure, maybe, I guess, and it sounds like super wishy-washy, I'm not going to go with that. That's an enthusiastic yes, right? It needs to sound like they're down, they're interested for what's going on. So we do consent stuff all the time. You ask your friends for stuff, you ask your parents for stuff, and when you're in a dating relationship, like if I'm asking somebody out on a date or I'm asking you to be my boyfriend, girlfriend, I'm asking for your consent in this relationship. But consent is always ongoing because now we're in this dating relationship, we've been together. Sometimes people like to kind of get close, right? Sometimes you're cuddling on the couch. Sometimes your dating partner wants to kiss you or make out with you or whatever. And in those moments too, on a part of your boundaries and what you feel comfortable with, you need to make sure that that person's getting your consent if you're okay with it. And also making sure that if you're the initiator in like a kiss or make out situation, that you're making sure that they're down for it too. Okay, you can't, again, we're not mind readers. You're not going to assume that they want that to happen. The movies lie, where people's faces come together and it seems like it's all working out. That's not really real life, right? We have to make sure people are okay with it. Because especially if you've never dated somebody or never kissed somebody or made out with somebody, those are pretty nervous times, right? We get really overwhelmed. We're wondering if they're going to like us, if we're going to be bad at it or whatever. So we have to make sure that we're making everybody comfortable, which is another part of respect. But for people in the sense of like saying just kissing or making out, it could be anything, but we're just talking about this. If you didn't want to do that with your partner, why would telling your partner no be difficult? Why would saying no be difficult? How about you turn and talk for like 30 seconds, come up with ideas or reasons why, whether it's a new relationship or maybe one that's long-term, why might you be nervous to tell your dating partner no? Come up with some ideas. All right. Do we get some ideas? Hit me. Yeah. They might get upset with you. And tough cookies, if you don't want to do something, you're allowed to say no. And if my partner's reaction is that they get upset with me, that's a warning sign of like, let's communicate this. Why are they upset? And can we work past this? Or are they going to get pushy about it, right? Because now some people want what they want and they get pushy. Then they start convincing you. They start pressuring you, or they, not even necessarily a mean way. They're like, but I love you so much and blah, 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 right? And it sounds nice, but then it mushes us into a situation that we might not want to have been in because I said no. And like being told no is a bummer. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, like no doesn't mean forever. No just might mean no right now. And if you push those boundaries, you're disrespecting that partner, and that might have a future impact in your relationship. So that's an excellent one. What else did y'all come up with? Why else is saying no to your dating partner possibly difficult? What else would you be worried about or think might happen? Yeah?
It could kind of lead to an awkward moment.
Okay. Nobody likes to be awkward, right? So an awkward moment, the person's trying to kiss or make out with you, and then you said no, and then it's like, okay, we're kind of stuck in this moment. But let me tell you, again, I'd rather have an awkward moment because I asked that person than commit a crime against somebody's body that's not supposed to be happening, right? That's a bigger awkward situation. So at the end of the day, you know what? It's like, well, all right, that stinks. Let's go do something else. And then you move on and you go back to playing the video games. You go back to watching Netflix. You go out with your friends. Just move on. And then you know what? It dissipates. The awkwardness goes away. But if we feel pressured in that situation of well, this is going to be weird if I tell them no, or if we think, well, what if they break up with me? Maybe I don't want to kiss or make out with them, so they're going to go get it somewhere else. If you feel like your partner's going to leave you or break up with you because you don't want to be physical with them, red flag. That's another problem because, again, we need to be working together. And if that's a deal breaker for them, then we break up because we're not matching on our values. And you know what? Fine. My body or I wasn't violated, so at the end of the day, I can move on and know that I was still respected. Consent, also think about this in a non-kissy make-out way. When you go on a date with somebody, make sure it's cool to check them in somewhere or tag them in a photo because not everybody likes to have their entire life tagged on social media. And if they were out on a date and parents might not have known or their friends didn't know, it might cause some drama and stuff that they weren't ready for. So always make sure that you get people's permission when you're online as well, tagging photos, stuff like that. In this setting, because we're here, the Catholic Church does teach abstinence. So when I was talking about kissing or making out, you can insert any level of sexual activity that some people might choose to do. But in the value systems that you have here, we also would say that there are benefits of not participating in sexual activity, whatever you want that to mean. It definitely makes it less complicated if it's not on the table because then we both know that kind of sticky, awkward, well, are they going to leave me if I don't do this kind of situation? If we're both on the same page, that we're not even going to talk about that or bring that up in the relationship, then that complication is gone. Also, obviously, there's STI and pregnancy risks with sexual activity, so you don't have to worry about that if we're not doing anything. But always, consent is always important, anywhere from kissing or making out through all the other stuff that people ever want to do. Even when you're an adult, you're married, consent is still part of this equation. So, all right, we had a healthy relationship, we talked to somebody, we've been on a date, maybe we've only dated for a couple weeks and it's not working out. Maybe I got 6 months invested into this thing, okay? But now they want to break up with me. Or maybe I'm starting to question that I want to break up with them. Maybe because it's unhealthy, maybe just because I don't know, I just don't want to be with them anymore. Maybe I find somebody else who's more interesting, whatever. Who in here has been the person who broke up with somebody? Is anybody in here broke up with somebody? Okay, sometimes it's easier to be on that side, right? And who in here has had their heart broken? Who's been broken up with? Right? Okay, good, I see some hands. Breaking up totally stinks. It's a big bummer, especially if we really like this person. We put in all that time and effort. And sometimes, a lot of times when we break up, it's there's a lot of drama. People talking over here. There's messages going on over here. Maybe the person and we broke up because they were already cheating on me. So sometimes it gets messy, right? But breakups are definitely normal. And if you need to get out of a dating relationship and you have to be the one that breaks up with them, think about how to say it's over. You could be sensitive. You don't have to go off on them and lose your mind and make them feel like total garbage, right? You can just let them know hey, I don't think this is working out. But be clear. Don't make it all mushy and where 2 days later they still think you're dating because you weren't very clear. Let them know that you had a lot of fun together while you guys were dating, but you don't think it's going to work out between the two of you. Maybe you could still be friends. That probably won't work, but like maybe we could be nice to each other in the hallway, wave, but you wish them the best on their next relationship, right? Like make it that we're done dating. Be calm and straightforward, be forward and be confident. You know what you need to do. Just say it. I know it's awkward and uncomfortable, but get it done. But also think of your setting. More so if you're in a unhealthy or abusive relationship, it could be dangerous or scary to try to break up with somebody in that setting. So you might want to pick a public setting where there's more people around so you don't feel like isolated or one-on-one. But also think of your setting like, try not to embarrass that person. Like if I'm trying to break up with you, I don't need like 15 of my friends, ooh, like screaming in the back because I'm breaking up with you and kind of making all this like stuff going on. Just get it done the way it needs to be done. But if it's a safety thing, think of your setting. But on the other side, we need to be the one, if we're broken up with, to hear that it's over. Maybe we could try to talk about it and see if we can make it work, but not on like a 2 weeks I've been trying to make this work. Like if it's gonna work, time will tell, people will say, right? But we can move on. There's gonna be like a handout reference sheet that you can see at the end of the presentation, and there are some skills that are in some of the worksheets to help practice getting through a tough breakup or a situation if you need to be the one to break up with somebody, because it's not easy. So if you need to ever use that, definitely check that out. But, and in that packet, there's going to be like things that you can think of, like name 5 positives about yourself, whether you're the person just got dumped or you're the person breaking up with somebody else. Like there's still good qualities about you, right? You're not shattered and broken. Like you're going to be able to move on. But also take time for yourself. We don't need this like relationship of a revolving door of dating partners. It kind of doesn't give us a chance to find out why this one didn't work before we start running and dating somebody new. So like I just remember people would like break up and then all of a sudden be dating somebody new. And I'm like, what? What just happened? They had like 15 relationships in one semester. And I'm like, what is going on? Like something doesn't add up here. So take your time. And talk with someone you trust, whether it's about safety or it's kind of a bummer. So maybe talk with your friends, family, or another adult that you might trust talking about relationships with, and kind of just process how it felt to get broken up with or being that confident person to do the breaking up with. Also, you'll probably date more than just that person in your life, so don't put all your eggs in a basket, right? Like don't assume that this is the end-all be-all of a person that you're gonna like marry for the rest of your life. Definitely possible. I saw high school people date and marry their high school sweethearts, but for many of us, it doesn't work out that way, and that's okay. All dating relationships are a learning experience. So I've kind of already been bringing up some of these unhealthy relationship situations because there's a slippery slope from unhealthy to what we view as abusive. And it's those unhealthy warning sign kind of situations that we need to recognize before we get stuck in the abusive situation. Because now if I'm in this cycle of violence, which I'll show you a picture of, like a diagram, if I'm stuck in the cycle of violence, it's a lot tougher to get out than if I noticed when things were like not going so hot, okay? So we have a video about Nikki. And so she's gonna be telling us about her dating partner, well, ex-dating partner, and the things that they were doing during the relationship that she had with them. So for those of us who know about dating or domestic violence, some of this will kind of fit with some of our knowledge. And for those of us that this is kind of a new topic, we're probably going to be super surprised. A lot of us are going to be surprised anyways at the behavior that some people do to treat another human, okay? So things I want you to think of is like, what makes an impression on you? What do you feel trapped Nikki or kind of made her feel stuck in that situation? And then also like look at the outcome, like what action did she take, okay?
I'm Nikki and I'm 18. 3 years ago, when I just turned 15, I met a guy at summer school, and he was Mr. Popular. He was, every girl wanted to be with him. He was funny, and, you know, he was the one who always brought out the jokes during class, and I was real shy always throughout my whole school career, and he started talking to me, noticing me. We began dating. I was very excited about this because I was now known, I was heard of, and we started dating and things went fine. And about the first week into the relationship, the first kind of controlling thing he told me was, I'm the type of guy that likes a lot of physical attention, so if you don't give it to me, I'm going to get it from somebody else. Meaning like play with his hair, scratch his back during class, stuff like that. So I did what I was told. It was my first real relationship. I liked my status at school now, and so I wanted, you know, to stay his girlfriend. And I liked him. He was, you know, made me happy. It progressed into being real, like, putting down verbal abuse and controlling. Not necessarily, he wouldn't tell me that I couldn't wear tank tops or I couldn't wear, you know, shorts or anything like that. He would say, you look better in jeans or you look better in long sleeve shirts. So, and of course, I wanted to wear what I looked better in to him to make him happy. And that I looked better without makeup and without doing my hair and stuff like that. And it began to where he was telling me that I was coming over to his house and taking my mom's truck without a license at 2:30 in the morning, and if I didn't, that meant I didn't love him, I didn't want to be with him, and that if that meant that we were breaking up, and then if we broke up, he would, you know, commit suicide or, you know, go crazy, that he couldn't live without me. That was the best thing that ever happened to him. On the other side, that he was the only thing that I ever could get. Like, I wouldn't get anybody that would treat me better, and he would tell me that, and he would tell me about times when, you know, we wouldn't be hanging out and he would go and hang out with his ex-girlfriends, or he would have parties and call me the next day and be like, yeah, I hooked up with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I just dealt with it because, you know, I was told that I loved him and that he was the only thing I'd ever get and that we were going to get married, and that was just it. I was just stuck with him. That's how I felt. And finally, there wasn't physical abuse throughout the whole relationship. He only hit me one incident. It was pretty bad that one night. And it was on a Saturday night, and I'd gone over to his house to watch a movie with him and a couple of friends. He invited some other people over, and some people stayed, some people left. Well, when we were about to watch the movie, me and this other girl went to the corner store to get snacks and drinks and candy and stuff. We came back, and I'd gotten all his favorite, you know, Skittles, whatever he liked, and because I knew it all, I had to get it. Just, I was thinking of him. I got it. We get back there, and I give him his stuff, and he's like, all right, leave. I was like, are you kidding me? I just spent like $30-40 at the corner store on my mom's gas card. You want me to leave? There's no way. So I sat down on the back of the couch, like my legs were hanging off the back of it, and he was talking to the girl that I went to the store with, and they were kind of flirting, kind of playfully fighting and pushing each other. And he looked at me, and then he playfully pushed me, but it wasn't so playful. It was a little bit hard. And I kind of lost my balance on the couch and got myself situated again. He pushed me 2 other times, and the third time he pushed me so hard that I rolled backwards off the couch. And at that point, I was trying to get up, and he had an open kitchen, and he looked at me, and he started calling me horrible names. And he picked up anything he could in the kitchen, and he was throwing it at me, like a bag of chips, Velveeta cheese box, scissors, anything he could get. And that's when I started to walk over to the front door to get my shoes on and leave and stuff. He came out of the kitchen and around, and he picked me up by my hair and dragged me to the stairs, which were by the front door. And he laid me down on my back, and he started choking me, still calling me horrible names. And he was choking me so hard that his thumbnail broke skin right here on my neck. And I got free. I got my keys, or my mom's keys, and I went to go leave, and somebody was parked behind me. But when I was exiting the front door and I was outside, I was trying to scream, or I was yelling, and he came outside and he was telling me to shut up. And when I turned around, he was right there, and he hit me with an open fist, like right here on my jaw, you know, telling me not to scream. I got in the truck and I was crying and I didn't know what to do. So I started calling my sisters, and I couldn't get a hold of them, but I got a hold of my sister's brother-in-law, who was telling me, asking me what was wrong and telling me what I should do. And my boyfriend came out of the house and got in the truck and took the phone from me, heard that it was a male's voice, didn't like it, slammed my phone on the dash, and he reached over again with an open fist and hit me right here on my face, and it damaged my tear duct. And when I cry, I only cry out of this eye now. And I have to constantly put eye drops in. And then he went back inside, and I went to go wake the person whose car's behind me, and they wouldn't get up. And I finally got somebody to move the car. And so they moved the car. I was leaving, and then as I was leaving, my boyfriend opened the door, hopped in the truck, and I stopped. And then, I was trying to get his forgiveness. I don't know what I did that made him go rage on me. And I finally got a little bit forgiveness. And I remember that I felt like I had the most success in the world because I was able to actually give him a kiss. Like, I just felt so proud of myself for at least getting that from him. And I remember I was like on my knees on the floor of the truck, and I was like begging for his forgiveness, crying my heart out to him. I still don't know what I did. And I remember he was telling me, if anything you deserved all this the most, and you're not going to get anybody better than you. We'll always be together. If I didn't hit you, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't have hit you. Things like that. And it all made sense to me at the time because it's just, he brainwashed me, totally made me who he wanted me to be. And so he got out of the truck. I went home. My mom had to go to work that day, and I slept all day. When I woke up, I don't know who I was, but I had the guts to call my mom and my dad and say, I need y'all to come to the house. We need to have like a little meeting. I need to tell you something. And so I told them what happened, and we went and filed a report. And about 2 weeks later after that, we got a protective order, and I haven't heard from him since. I let myself get to the point where I'd do anything for him and let him do anything to me because we shared intimate feelings, meaning sex, and with a person that's so personal with somebody. And he was all that I'd ever really had as boyfriend-wise. I never had a real boyfriend. He was all I knew towards the end of the relationship. I didn't really hang out with my family, and family means a lot to me. I didn't hang out with my friends, and he was all I ever hung out with. He was me. I was him. He made me who he wanted me to be. So without him, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do, and I just let it get that way because, like I said, without him, I was lost. I don't know why I told somebody. Even if I think about it today, I don't remember what mind frame I was in to get up out of bed and call my mom and say, I need to tell you something. I didn't know that it was, I had a feeling it was bad. I had to have been mad. Somebody hit me. But I didn't know that it was an issue. And I didn't know that it was something that could affect me the way that it did. I just had a gut feeling that I had to tell somebody. Why not my parents? The best people to tell. And we did something about it, and then I realized that it's a big issue, and I actually learned what abuse was a month after the relationship. Because I remember me and my mom were walking, and we were grocery shopping. She goes, maybe you need some counseling. You're a battered teen. I was like, what? I'm not a battered teen. What are you talking about? And then I learned that that it was an abusive relationship that was unhealthy.
All right. So that's Nikki's story. And from that video, there was a lot that happened prior to her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend being physically abusive to her. There was so for the other things that came up, I want to see for you to talk to somebody near you. What were some of the things that she was saying was happening before the physical abuse that you were just like, no way. Like if you had heard her say like, oh, he did this or he made me do this, and you were like, I'm out. Because I had that. When I'm watching that, I was like, oh, hell no. Like I'm not, no. And you probably had those when she brought up some of those comments. So see if you could pick those back out, and then we could talk as a group, okay? So go ahead. Talk to somebody near you for a couple seconds. So some people kind of slowed down talking. So give me, what'd y'all come up with? What are things that you were like, nope, like we can see it because duh, we're not in that relationship, right? But that's the problem in general, is when I'm dating somebody, I'm like focused on them and I think they're awesome and they're doing things that might have made me feel that it was okay. But on the outside, we're like, no way, right? So I saw a hand back there. What you got?
Like literally the first thing she said that he said to her was like, I need physical attention, and I was like, there from someone else.
Yeah, I just, bye. Like most of us would be like, I'm not, no, I don't know. And then she said with the physical attention was like, you know, like other cutesy type of things, but still that idea of like, okay, you want me to be like hands-on with you in some capacity, and you just told me that that's what you want. You didn't ever ask me if that was okay, or if, you know, I would be interested in doing that. And like at first some of the stuff, like the physical things she talked about was kind of just cutesy, no big deal. At the end of the video, she did say that they did have sexual like interactions, so that might have stemmed from the time where he said, I want physical interaction, and if you don't do this with me, I'm going to get somewhere else. And somewhere down the line, it also equated to sex, right? Or some other, whatever you want to fill in the blank of a sexual activity to be, because it could be a lot of different stuff. And if your dating partner, like we talked about earlier, says, if you don't do this with me, then I'm going to leave, like, I kind of get nervous, or I feel stuck, or I feel awkward. But that should never be forced upon me. So excellent. What else did y'all pick up on that you were like, no, that's not cool? Yeah.
When he was telling her like, oh, she looks better in jeans and long sleeves.
Who wants to wear jeans and long sleeves? It's not winter. But yeah, so telling her what she, quote, looked better in, right? There are some abusive partners who will tell you straight up, like they might body shame you. They might tell you that you look blah, 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 enter in a bad whatever of what you're wearing. But then there's that manipulation of, oh, you look better in this. And maybe it's more of like cover up, dress down, or maybe it's the other end where they want you to wear more revealing clothing that you might not be interested in. Now, I'm speaking in terms, I need to preface this, I'm speaking in terms in relation to Nikki. Nikki's the female in this situation, and the male is the alleged perpetrator in this situation. But I need us to generally think that any one of us, male or female, could be a possible victim in a dating violence situation. And sometimes with the way that people dress and stuff like that, it seems to be targeted more towards a female. But females are just as possible to be the abuser in situations, and men are also victims of abuse. We don't see it reported as much because, unfortunately, because of masculinity and people telling guys to man up and get over it and handle your business, dudes aren't really cool with like coming up and sharing that they're being abused or in an unhealthy relationship with their dating partner, which totally sucks, and we're working on changing that. But we have to be aware that everybody could be a victim in these situations, even though this is like a girl-boy situation. But yes, the dress part was ridiculous, right? I saw another hand over here. Do we have another thing? Yeah. Yeah. He just like straight up was like, oh, that party last night was sick. You weren't there. And I did this, this, and this. I would have been like, Am I your bro? Like, am I just like your other friend that you don't realize that we're in a relationship and that somehow this is okay that you think you could do that, right? And that gets people stuck too. If my dating partner, which I don't want to date somebody who's cheating, but to each their own. If my dating partner's going out, hooking up, or whatever they're doing with other people, okay, that's not very respectful to me unless we somehow decided we had an open relationship, but probably not. And now I have to sit there and and I feel bad. I might feel guilty, and then that's how I get sucked into doing touchy-feely stuff that I don't want to do with a dating partner because I just saw them go get it somewhere else, right? And I don't want that to happen. So sometimes we feel, well, let me just try to make it better and they'll stay with me. You are doing too much work, right? It's an equal partnership. If you are putting in that much effort to, quote, get them to stay, we're missing something. We're missing warning signs here, right? So good observation. Anything else that you noticed in the video from her story that you were just not having any of it? When it did get to the violent incident, right? The night at the house where she brought over snacks and he was like, all right, deuces, later. And she's like, no. He was physically aggressive towards her in front of other people, which is completely ridiculous that nobody else also stood up and, tried to help. But then she tried to leave and he got in the car. And when you're in a really hostile, violent situation, kind of like how Nikki said that she felt like just getting a kiss from him was like an achievement, like an awesome thing. When you're wound up in a really anxious, tense situation, whatever you could do that you might feel is making it seem less bad makes it seem like it's a big deal, which at the end, Nikki was like, well, that was ridiculous. But I've talked to teens before, depending on how we've grown up, people that are our influence as adults. I've spoken to a group of teens where they didn't really see getting physically hit by their dating partner as violence unless it left bruises or blood. And I was like, what? None of your dating partner should never lay a hand on you in a sexual way or a physical way, because that's a violation to your body overall. But when it comes to physical violence, that's typically the violence that most of us think of when it comes to dating or domestic violence. But Nikki also had verbal, right? Her partner telling her who are what she was or should wear. Just being manipulative in the sense of taunting her of oh, I'm hooking up with all these people and you're never gonna get anybody else. That's all verbal, mental, emotional abuse. And what do you think in Nikki's situation or in general? Let's open it a little more general. Why do you think people who are in an unhealthy or even abusive relationship, why is it sometimes really hard to leave or break up with or get away from that abuser? You said people could see you or treat you in a different way? Yeah. Because I probably have this relationship and I posted my cute photos on Instagram and I have this whole life of what our cute relationship looks like. And behind the scenes, I'm being treated like garbage and nobody knows, right? And so if I break up, people might have questions, people might say stuff, or if they knew or they found out that I was being abused, people might talk. They might spread rumors, they might just kind of be bogus about the whole situation, and I'm afraid of what other people are gonna think. Especially in high school, you're worried about your social status, reputation, and you're worried about what are other people gonna say or talk about me. Am I gonna be viewed as some weak person who can't take care of themselves kind of thing? And does that change who I am? And it, when we don't get help, Nikki was fortunate enough to have supportive family and possibly even looked into getting counseling. It's not necessary for everyone, but when you have an unhealthy and abusive relationship, it definitely takes a toll on who you feel that you are as a person and your mental health, right? We already got people that have anxiety and depression just because that's who we are, and then add in that I was in traumatic incidences. My dating partner was forcing me to do stuff that he didn't want to do. I felt manipulated. I definitely feel like I can't trust myself. And that also has an impact too on how I feel that people are going to perceive me. What else might be a reason why people have a hard time leaving an abusive partner?
Well, she literally said it herself. That's she was basically brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the words things he told her, he kind of switched around. She said something about him saying you deserved it, So like she would probably believe that she actually was.
Yeah, so perfect. So what you're saying is like in the video, she literally said that she felt she was brainwashed. However we want to sway that, that's really what we're talking about is manipulation, right? And he told Nikki that it was her fault, that she deserved it, that if he didn't love her, he wouldn't have done that, or, you know, however he phrased it. And it's like, what? You have to be physically aggressive to show me that you love or care about me? No, the answer is no, right? But they try to play that they're doing it in your favor or they're doing it because they care about you. Same thing with like partners who are really aggressive online where they're like stalking, always wanting to know where you are, checking in with you. And they'll say like, well, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't do it. It's like you are being very controlling, right? We're not in this equal relationship anymore. You're doing stuff to manipulate and control me. But yeah, we get brainwashed. Or if he's saying you're never going to get anybody else, it's only just going to be us. Nikki also felt like it was just them. She kind of stopped hanging out with her friends. She kind of started to pull away from family. Abusers love to isolate you because now when you're stuck with just them, you feel like you got nowhere else to go, right? And now I have this feeling, I don't want other people to judge me, and I'm stuck, or I feel like I'm stuck, right? Perfect. Any other reasons people are afraid to leave an abusive relationship or their abuser? Normally we're afraid of something worse happening too, right? If I was already physically hurt, right? He hurt her in the house. She literally in that moment tried to leave and then he came back out again. And it could happen in that same quick instant, or maybe you were abusive and then a couple days later I try to break up with you and you start to become manipulative or abusive or threatening again. So sometimes people are afraid that the abuse is going to get worse. They're going to come back after you. And she did mention that she was able to get she went to court and was able to get like a document, basically civil no contact order of protection, which says that person needs to leave you alone. And if they violate that, they're going to jail. And I know that sometimes we get afraid or get nervous that we don't want to have to bring cops involved and stuff like that. But like your safety is important. As a teenager and as an adult, those things are always an option. If somebody's stalking, harassing you, physically abusing you, forcing you to do sexual things that you don't want to do, there is legal ways that we can make this person leave you alone. We can help you be safe in your school. Because if I have to break up with this fool and then have to go to school with them for another year, that sucks, right? And I don't want to have to be nervous that we're going to be in the same classes or they're going to follow me around in the hallway. We can help make that environment safer. Your social workers at school or therapists at school can do that. Agencies like mine who help with sexual violence. There's domestic violence agencies, and then our awesome ministries that we have through the Archdiocese. There's lots of working groups that can help keep you safe as a teenager and as an adult. So there are 4 categories of violence: physical, sexual, verbal/emotional/mental, so like psychological abuse, and then also digital online. So we talked about some of these. But I also need you to realize that unhealthy quickly goes into abusive if we're not careful and not paying attention. Sometimes when it comes to verbal, emotional, mental abuse, it could be what they're saying, but also how they say it, right? How did I tell you to change your clothes versus am I being aggressive about it? Sometimes we notice that we aren't communicating or my partner's like putting me on timeout, giving me a silent treatment. That might start to be unhealthy. But then it could get worse where they're using abusive or hurtful language. There's a difference between people who are like just physically hitting, punching, choking, grabbing your hair, pulling you down kind of thing, like the stuff that he was doing to Nikki. But there's also like, if I was breaking up or trying to get out of a situation, I'm like, whatever, I'm out of here, I don't want to talk to you. And my dating partner grabs my wrist and is like, no, stay here. We need to talk about this, right? Control. I put my hands on you and I grabbed you and I held your arm really tight. Or maybe they saw you talking to somebody in the hallway during a passing period, because I know we have like so much time to talk in the hallway, but you got out of class, your lab partner, you guys were talking about whatever, and your dating partner sees you, gets jealous that you're talking to this person, and then comes up and is like, come on, Jess, I'll walk you to class. Grabs your wrist and like escorts you down the hallway. Not cutesy, we're gonna hold hands, like a let's go. No, don't put your hands on me, right? So those little things, those shoves, it's not just that playful haha, it's like they shoved you, pushed you out of the way. We also call it, like in physical violence, we talk about environmental abuse, like your setting, because I can make you afraid and intimidated without ever touching you, right? If I'm screaming and yelling and I get in your face and I'm like, why don't you just listen? And I yell at you and I hit stuff and I throw things, I scare you without ever touching you. And that can be the unhealthy part before I get physically aggressive on your body. Those are those things that we don't need to put up with. Because if you get that scared reaction, that nervousness, they're doing something to control the situation. And after a while, when I show my cycle of violence, if I do that a couple times, it's been like a month and I've argued with you about 3 or 4 times, I hit things, I throw things off the table. Some people tell me, oh, Jess, my partners never hit me, but they've punched a wall. They've broke their phone, they threw it and they chucked it across the room. They were just so mad. Yeah, in reality, if we are mad at people, we don't just like go around throwing a fit, right? We don't take a teenage temper tantrum because our dating partner or somebody made us mad. Like, that's not how we show that we're angry. If I'm that angry with you that I can't even talk to you in this situation, then I need to go for a walk. We need to take a time out, right? I need to go like kick the soccer ball in the backyard. Like, I gotta go find something else to do because I'm just that level of mad that I feel like I'm gonna break stuff. But the people who take it out a lot of times are doing it out of intimidation, trying to get to you to change your opinion or be afraid of them, because it's not an equal relationship. It's an unequal distribution of power. So the abuser's on top. Sometimes they'll start blaming, like lying or hiding stuff, or telling like white lies about stuff that they don't even need to lie about, all the way to them blaming or accusing you of doing stuff that you're not doing, because they like to play the victim card and they like to make you feel like you're the crazy person, that you did something wrong. You absolutely didn't, but they say those things to get in your head. We kind of talked a little bit about the sexual pressure, whether it's what they're saying or they're holding it over your head that they're going to go do something with somebody else if you don't do whatever it is with them. They might start to pressure you that, come on, it's going to be fine, all the way to what most of us, when we talk about like sexual violence, when we think of like rape and sexual abuse, sexual harassment, is when they force that sexual activity upon a person. They don't even take consent in. They don't take your values in. They're just making that violence done to your body in a sexual way. Nobody's allowed to have, forced sexual activity or any forced penetration or sexual touches to your body, them trying to take off your clothes, all that stuff. First of all, without your consent. Second of all, if it doesn't line up with your value system, things like that. That's a form of sexual violence. There's a lot that goes into that. But that's what my agency focuses on. We help a lot of teenagers and adults who have been forced into sexual activity that they didn't want from their dating partner or other people. Also, in sexual violence, I need to bring up sexting right quick because sometimes as teenagers, we view that, well, if it happens over the phone, it's not the same as if I actually hooked up with somebody. Granted, they're two different types of sexual situations, but when you're having like sexting stuff on your phone, first of all, you're underage, and that makes it illegal. Because do you know what it's called if a minor sends a nude photo around? What is the criminal thing? Or what would you say if like a creepy adult had pictures of kids? What is that called? Child pornography. Aha, does that ring a bell for some of us? Not just for knowledge purposes. Okay, so that's another piece that I need us to know, because if you are underage, you're not allowed to have those type of photos. You're not supposed to take those type of photos about your lovely bodies, and it's child pornography. It's distribution of child pornography. It's if it's being sent out. It's creation of it. It's a whole legal mess that people don't want to get into. And besides that, it's a legal problem. What are most high schoolers, do you think, most worried about if they were to have sent a nude photo? You're not supposed to, but if those kids did, what are they most worried about? Yeah, it's getting out. Leaked, exposed, screenshot, whatever, right? Or people think, well, it's just on Snapchat, it'll go in 2 minutes. No. Quickly, I could replay that, right? I can screenshot it. And so what? You get the notification, but guess who still has that, right? And if you are being blackmailed or any of those things are happening, or somebody took pictures of you without your knowledge, like most of your locker rooms probably have a sign that says like no cell phones or video recording, because duh, you're not supposed to have pictures of other people's bodies. So it all kind of rolls into this idea of child pornography if you're underage, but also people who use those photos against you, and we don't want that to happen either. And if you have those issues from a dating partner or somebody else, that's another thing that our agency helps with, because it's a form of violence. And guilt trips, they make you feel bad about your decisions. They make you feel bad about who you're hanging out with. If it's not with them, again, get in your head. And that last one, they might use digital, like social media, to like stalk you. Because maybe you're not on, I don't know what it's called, ghost mode or whatever on Snapchat, right? And if your location shows up, maybe you said you were hanging out with your friends and they just randomly show up. And you didn't say where you were going, but they found out because they used your location, right? Sometimes the friend checked you in and now that person shows up. Sometimes the abusers get very aggressive where you're like, oh, I'm just going out to dinner with my parents. We're going to go eat wherever. And if my dating partner has the means to get over there or drive by and they're getting to be abusive, they might like check up on me to see if I'm at where I said I'm at. They might go to the parking lot looking for your parents' car or whatever. They might like try to find if you are where you say you are. That's stalking, right? But abusers, they're checking in on you, right? But then they try to swindle it to say, well, I care about you so much. I want to make sure you're safe. No, you're being creepy, right? So these are a lot of things I already went over, but if you ever need the PowerPoint, you can definitely go through these lines, but I've kind of explained them already. But the unhealthy relationship traps, or how we feel stuck, is when people don't know that it's abuse, but hopefully today we've learned what some of these abusive signs could look like, so that if we're in that unhealthy, this person's not really, it's not working, I can get out before I'm really sucked in and stuck. But some people just don't know that it's abuse. They think it's okay. They're being told it's okay. Or unfortunately, if we've grown up and we've seen other adults or how other people have been treated, we might think that that's normal. Nobody deserves to have their hands have somebody put their hands on you or call you names or put you down or change who you are. You get to be your own person in a relationship and you guys come together and it works, or it doesn't, right? Sometimes we think we can fix them, right? We might have even known that their last relationship didn't work out, but we're like, I'm better. I will fix this, right? Or you think, well, they were mean, but if I just tell them I'm sorry and I try to make it up to them, it won't happen again. It's nothing that you're doing that is wrong. It's all 100% on that perpetrator or this person who's the abuser. And you can give 500% in that relationship and it, quote, still won't be enough, because they will find something to be mad at. They will find something to start an argument with, because that's just in them. And unless your partner who's abusive actually owns up to it and wants to change, probably not going to happen. But if they did, then they need to make the change. We cannot change other people. You only control yourself. We can influence our friends. We can be positive people, empower others, but I can't force somebody to change. And nobody should force me to do something either. And people keep silent. If we don't talk to somebody, maybe it's a friend at first, but then you, being the friends who aren't being abused, you need to hear it and say, ooh, my friend is being hurt and we need to get them help, right? Don't say, none of my business, I'm out of it. I don't want to get involved. You kind of want to, because do you want your friend to have things worse happen, right? Whatever's happening is bad enough that they're already telling you about it. You need to take it seriously. But keeping silent isn't going to help us. It's not going to make us feel safer. And it's a sense of like relief once you're able to actually talk to somebody or tell them something that's happened. So think about things, stop signs, those warning signs. What's your limit? If your partner physically abuses you one time, that should be the buzzer, I'm out. You know what I mean? Some people have a different threshold, but like, physical abuse is not okay. People that get into fights on the street get in trouble, right? So why is it okay from your dating partner? It's not. If they try to isolate you, they're always wanting to be with you and they don't let you be with other people. They attempt to destroy your self-esteem or your self-confidence. They might tell you have really stupid ideas. They always put you down. They try to get you involved in stuff that you don't want to be involved in. They pressure or guilt you. They make you feel like you owe them, that they're doing you a favor that they're dating you, or they're doing you a favor that they took you on a date. You don't owe them anything, right? We came into this together. We leave together, not owing somebody something else. And if they react negatively, sadness, anger, or resentment, if you say no, which we kind of talked about earlier. Here's my cycle of violence. Okay, so we start with this tension building phase, which in reality, we are gonna argue and disagree with our dating partners. Totally normal, no big deal. But it's when this gets to the explosive incident. So in Nikki's story, besides all the other manipulation that happened previously, in that tension building situation, you know, she said no, he pushed her on the couch, told her to get out. And then there was more of the explosion when he got her back to the truck and started doing all that other stuff. And then the honeymoon period in this Nikki story kind of happened quickly. He tried to use his words to say oh, well, I loved you, so I cared about you, and this is why I did this. But all in this whole cycle is denial, is because that victim feels that maybe they didn't mean it, or maybe I could change them. And the more we stay in that denial that somehow that it's not as bad as it seems, the more I get stuck. And the more I'm stuck in that cycle, the more it happens, the more intense the violence can get, going from hitting or kicking things in the room to actually putting their hands on you kind of thing. So this cycle is very scary, and it's hard to get out. Statistically, it takes a woman or somebody 7 times to get out and officially leave their abuser before they're for sure done. So it takes a long time. And that's not 7 days, 7 hours. That could be a variety of time. So don't give up on your friend if you know your friend's being abused and you keep trying to help them. Keep trying, keep that line of communication open. Talk with a trustworthy adult if you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship. It could be counselors at school, an outside therapist, or maybe another agency that you might be involved in. Adults that help you in this kind of setting here, or just anybody else that you feel. Maybe you have your best friend, their mom and dad is your second set of parents. Maybe they're in a grown-up that you feel like you can talk to. A mentor, something like that, your doctor or your nurse if you want to talk to a medical professional about it. There is dating violence support and sexual violence support. In the reference packet, there's some links for loveisrespect.org, which is where a lot of information comes from on the cycle of violence. So if you're trying to understand more of that, but also if it's sexual violence or sexual harassment issues, RAINN is the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, and they'll be able to support you, and they can get you in touch with local agencies like mine or Resilience out of Chicago. So in the end, just feel like you have good judgment and feel that you're being respected in this relationship. You should be able to enjoy it. It should be fun. We're going to have disagreements, but it's not going to be the end of the world. But know that sometimes some relationships can be unhealthy and get to be abusive, and nobody deserves that. So we talked about healthy relationships, breaking up sucks, but it's kind of normal. And especially if I need to get out of that relationship because my partner is being rude. But also we learned a little bit about some of those warning signs and what abusive situations can look like, both physically, emotionally, sexually, and online. But always just think, have in your head, if something bad were to have happened, who am I going to tell? Because you're not in trouble. I know that you feel like you might disappoint that adult or disappoint a grown-up or somebody who told you, oh, you shouldn't be dating or this, that, or the other. But at the end of the day, if you're being hurt, you deserve support. And if you're afraid to reach out, just know we're not looking to get kids in trouble. We just want you to have help. Whether it's as a teenager, this is information that you can take for the rest of your life. All right? Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Yeah. All right, Jess, you coming back up?
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica, for presenting
Yeah.
and reinforcing. And more than anything, feel free that if this is information that you think it might not pertain
necessarily to you, but you have friends, you have brothers, you have sisters that you can relate this information to. Jessica